Argument from authority, often referred to as the appeal to authority fallacy. It is one of the most common forms of reasoning that we encounter in everyday life. It appears in advertisements, political debates, classrooms, news commentaries, and even across social media. As human beings, we naturally rely on the experts and influential figures in our lives to guide our decisions, especially on topics where we lack specialized knowledge. While authority can play a helpful and necessary role in informing our beliefs, not all authoritative claims are equally reliable. At times, authority can provide clarity grounded in expertise and evidence. At other times, however, it can be used to manipulate opinions or convey information without proper justification. Understanding how this argument functions, recognizing when it is logically valid, and identifying when it crosses the line into fallacy allows us to think more critically, evaluate the claims more effectively, and resist potentially misleading information. The argument from authority fallacy, or argumentum ad facundum, occurs when something is assumed to be true solely because an authority figure claims it is, without any supporting evidence. In this situation, the argument relies more on who said it than on why it should be believed. While expertise is a valuable resource, an authority statement alone does not necessarily prove the truth of a claim. This fallacious reasoning becomes especially problematic when the authority figure is biased, unqualified, speaking outside their area of expertise, or providing no supporting evidence. In order to think critically, we must evaluate claims based on the evidence and reasoning behind them, not merely on the status of the individual presenting them. At its core, the structure of an argument from authority is quite simple. First, someone is regarded as an authority, such as a parent, doctor, professor, lawyer, or even celebrity. Then the authority figure makes a claim. Finally, the claim is accepted as true solely because the authority figure said so. The issue here is that the claim's validity depends on evidence, not the speaker's title or reputation. The logical form of this fallacy can be summarized as expert A gives his or her opinion on an issue. Expert A's area of expertise has little or nothing to do with issue B. Yet, people accept expert A's opinion on issue B because of their perceived authority. It is important to distinguish between legitimate and fallacious appeals to authority. An appeal to authority can be valid when the authority is credible, knowledgeable within their field, and presenting a claim supported by other experts or evidence. However, the appeal becomes fallacious when the authority lacks expertise, is offering an isolated opinion, or is just being used as a substitute for actual evidence. Many of us have been conditioned from childhood to obey the authority figures, oftentimes hearing phrases like, "because I said so," which can make it difficult to question authoritative claims later on in life. Nevertheless, critical thinking requires us to evaluate authority with discernment. This fallacy can appear in several forms. The first occurs when the authority in question is not an expert at all. For example, celebrities such as Jenny McCarthy or even Serena Williams oftentimes promote health aids or nutritional products despite lacking any actual scientific evidence or medical training. Similarly, politicians, teachers, or influencers may make claims well outside their field of knowledge. This is the second form of this fallacy, which arises when the authority is an expert, but not actually in the relevant area. For example, a heart surgeon is not an expert in climate science, just as a physicist is not necessarily an expert in cancer treatments. Expertise does not automatically transfer across disciplines. Fallacy appears when an authority figure contradicts the broad expert consensus. While many experts can disagree, cherry-picking a lone outlier to support a claim while also ignoring the consensus is a very misleading form of reasoning. In cases such as these, the appeal to authority becomes very unreliable. Many real-world examples help us to illustrate these distinctions. A famous actor endorsing a weight loss tea and claiming that it burns fat quickly is a fallacious appeal to authority. The actor's fame gives them influence, but it does not qualify them as a medical or nutritional expert, nor does it offer evidence for the product's effectiveness. Another example involves a politician who might claim a policy is safe because one expert supports it, even when most experts disagree. This is fallacious because it ignores the consensus and relies on a single, possibly biased authority. On the other hand, a cardiologist recommending a medical procedure based on test results is a valid appeal to authority. The cardiologist has expertise in heart health and is speaking within their field, while also providing evidence-based reasoning. Appeals to authority are persuasive because they function as mental shortcuts. In a world full of complex information, we simply cannot research every topic ourselves. Trusting experts is only natural and often practical. Authority figures can tend to speak with confidence, hold prestigious titles, and often influence how information is perceived. However, this trust can make us vulnerable to misinformation if we do not evaluate the credibility of the authority that we rely on. We take a look at how social conditioning contributes to the authority effect. From a very young age, children are taught to obey their parents, teachers, and elders. This is a foundational respect for hierarchy, which sets a precedence that continues into our adulthood. The drive to fit in and be liked, and the desire for social acceptance further reinforces conformity to group norms and expectations, including those established by authority. Our educational systems, workplaces, and political or religious organizations all have power structures that foster a tendency to obey commands for the sake of efficiency or hierarchy maintenance. The unwritten rules like don't challenge leadership or stay in your lane become internalized scripts. People often assume that figures they perceive as experts know what is best, leading to an over-reliance on others' decisions and a reluctance to evaluate thoroughly for themselves. The appeal to authority fallacy comes with many consequences, a few of which are misguided decisions, loss of critical thinking for individuals, perpetuation of false information, and even a neglect of an alternative perspective. This fallacy in particular comes with far-reaching social implications. Appeals to authority are everywhere, from political speeches and news reports to commercials and social media posts. Companies deliberately pay influencers, celebrities, and spokespeople because they understand the public's tendency to trust authoritative figures. As a result, it is important to evaluate the quality of information rather than accepting claims at face value. To protect ourselves from being misled, we can ask key questions when evaluating an authority. Questions like, is this person an expert in the exact field that they're discussing? Do other experts support this claim? Does this claim come with evidence? Is the authority figure being paid or possibly influenced by bias? And is the claim actually within the authority's area of expertise? Many of these questions can help separate trustworthy information from false or potentially misleading claims. In the end, avoiding the argument from authority fallacy requires focusing on the evidence not just names or titles. Critical thinkers verify the claims, investigate credentials, and even treat endorsements with caution. True experts will always support their claims with data, reasoning, and transparency. In conclusion, arguments from authority are not inherently flawed. They become fallacies only when the authority is unqualified, irrelevant, or even unsupported by evidence. Through learning how to evaluate expertise and assess the credibility of claims, we can strengthen our reasoning skills and protect ourselves from misinformation. Understanding the difference between valid and fallacious appeals to authority help us become more thoughtful, informed, and discerning participants in an informed, dense world. So, let's try a quick analysis.